There is a place on earth where it almost never rains. The sun splits the cracked ground from above. The wind strips every surface bare. And yet, someone walked into that desert 2,000 years ago and planted a vineyard, not out of desperation, not out of foolishness, because they had discovered something so precise, so perfectly matched to how the natural world actually works, that modern agriculture has spent decades scrambling to catch up. They figured out how to pull water straight from the air using nothing but rocks. And the method works just as well in your backyard today. In the next 10 minutes, you're going to learn not just what this technique is, but how 3 completely separate civilizations on 3 different continents, with zero contact between them, all arrived at the exact same solution, independently. A desert empire in the Middle East, farmers on a volcanic island off the coast of Africa, and an ancient people in the American Southwest who carried rocks by hand for miles before the wheel existed. If you understand what they all knew, you will never look at a dry garden bed the same way again. You will see what has been sitting right in front of you in every stone, every pebble, every handful of gravel, and you will know exactly how to use it. When Israeli archaeologists began surveying the Negev desert in the 1950s, they found something that refused to make sense. Spread across thousands of acres of barren hillside, arranged in deliberate rows, stretching as far as anyone could see, were tens of thousands of small stone mounds. Each one 3 to 5 feet across, each one placed with clear, obvious intention. The local Bedouin had a name for them, Talilat El Anab, the grape mounds. Scientists argued for years about what they were: religious monuments, burial markers, territorial boundaries. Then a botanist named Michael Evanari did something no one else had tried. He rebuilt them. His team reconstructed the ancient mounds exactly as the Nabateans had built them, planted grapevines at their base, and waited. Within 2 growing seasons, in a desert receiving less than 4 inches of rain per year, the vines were alive and producing fruit. The stones were working. The Nabateans were remarkable engineers. They carved the rose-red city of Petra from sheer cliff faces. They built aqueducts and water systems across an empire stretching from the northern Arabian Peninsula to Damascus and the borders of Rome. But their quietest achievement was this: they looked at a landscape that offered almost nothing, and they found a hidden gift inside it. They had learned how to make rocks drink the sky. Here is what was actually happening beneath those Nabatean mounds, and beneath every stone garden these civilizations ever built. Scientists have a name for it: lithic mulch agriculture. And the mechanisms, once you understand them, are as elegant as anything in modern engineering. When the sun goes down in an arid environment, temperatures drop sharply. Stone surfaces that absorbed heat all day cool rapidly faster than the surrounding air. When warm, moisture-carrying air from distant seas drifts across that cold surface, water vapor condenses into liquid droplets. The stone pulls moisture from the air the same way a cold glass pulls water from a warm summer afternoon. Research on arid land agriculture shows that stone mulch surfaces can condense measurable amounts of moisture per night under favorable conditions, though exact quantities vary considerably depending on rock type, climate, and region. And the stones do something else. Rain or dew trickles easily downward through the gaps between rocks into the soil below. But the process that normally pulls moisture back up to the surface, capillary action, the same force that draws water up through a paper towel, cannot bridge the air gaps between stones. The water goes in and stays in. Studies confirm that a 3 to 4 inch layer of stone mulch significantly reduces soil moisture. Evaporation estimates range from 40 to 80%, depending on the material and study conditions. The Nabateans did not understand capillary action in those words, but they understood what the stones did, and that was enough. The volcanic island that shouldn't be able to grow anything. On the 1st of September 1730, the earth beneath the Canary island of Lanzarote cracked open. A local priest recorded in his diary that an enormous mountain rose from the ground and flames shot from its summit. The eruptions did not last days or weeks. They lasted 6 years. By the time the last volcanic vent went quiet in 1736, rivers of hardened lava had buried a quarter of the island's productive farmland. The survivors emerged into what looked like permanent ruin, black volcanic gravel, porous, lightweight, covering everything, a material the locals called pecan. It looked like the grave marker for every harvest the island would never see again. But the farmers of Lanzarote are stubborn people, and they started noticing something strange. The plants that had somehow survived beneath the ash were not just alive. They were thriving, greener and more vigorous than anything the island had grown before the eruptions. The volcanic pecan was pulling moisture directly from the humid Atlantic winds that swept across the island every night. It was shielding that captured moisture from the evaporating heat of the daytime sun. And it was regulating the temperature of the root zone, keeping it stable enough for plants to survive a climate that swings between Atlantic cold and African heat. The farmers adapted. They dug deep, cone-shaped hollows into the volcanic earth and planted a single grapevine at the bottom of each one. Around the rim, they built semicircular stone walls to break the constant Atlantic wind. Today, centuries later, those same vineyards still produce internationally award-winning wines without a single pipe of artificial irrigation. Out of destruction, they built something more enduring than anything the original fertile soil had ever produced. And if you think this knowledge belonged only to the old world, consider what was happening simultaneously on the other side of the planet. In the desert valleys of Arizona, a civilization the Pima people called the Hohokam, those who have built tens of thousands of stone structures across the landscape. Archaeologists who have studied these sites describe them not as random accumulations, but as engineered growing systems. Each one positioned with careful attention to water flow, wind patterns, and the thermal behavior of the surrounding terrain. Further north, in the high desert valleys of New Mexico, the ancestral Puebloans did something even more demanding. They quarried pebbles by hand, carried them in baskets and leather pouches sometimes miles from the source, and spread them in layers 3 to 5 inches deep across thousands of square meters of cultivated land. No trucks, no wheelbarrows, no animals to carry the load. Just human hands and human knowledge, and an understanding of what those stones would do for the soil beneath them. Modern agronomists who have studied these ancient pebble mulch gardens estimate that they increased crop yields by 30 to 40%, compared to bare soil farming in the same region, with no fertilizer, no irrigation technology, no chemical inputs of any kind. Just rocks, and the wisdom to use them correctly. So why does no one teach this? Think about what lithic mulch agriculture actually requires. No products to buy, no brand to subscribe to, no irrigation system to install, no fertilizer contract to renew. You collect stones. You place them. The physics does the rest, the same physics it has always done, since long before anyone was selling anything. There's nothing patentable about a rock. And in an agricultural system built around selling inputs, soil conditioners, water management products, mulch bags by the pallet, a technique that costs nothing and outperforms everything is not exactly the knowledge that gets promoted. The ancestral Puebloans increased their yields by 30 to 40% with gravel they carried by hand. Lanzarote produces award-winning wine from a landscape that looked, after the eruptions, like the surface of the moon. The Nabateans grew vines in 4 inches of annual rainfall. None of them needed permission. None of them needed a supplier. And neither do you. Go outside today. Find a garden bed that dries out too fast in summer. Spread a 3 to 4 inch layer of river rock or lava rock around your plants. Keep it a few inches clear of the stems. And then wait. Watch what the soil does over the following weeks. You are not just mulching a garden bed. You are joining a conversation that has been going on for 2,000 years. Across deserts, volcanic fields, and high mountain valleys, they all found the same answer. It was always the stones.